Gridiron guys.
There it is. There he is.
Archie Griffin.
Archie! What is up, my man, Archie?
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks, you know that.
Hey, Archie, it's great to see you. You look. Every time I see you, I always say this, and I know you're sick of hearing me, but but he doesn't age.
No.
You look great.
He's 42.
He looks absolutely
well,
great.
thank you, but I really wish that was the case. I tell you what, I may not look aged, but I feel aged.
Arch, we've been talking about obviously the Cleveland Browns situation with Deshaun Watson, and I'm not going to bring you into that whole mess. But what I'm curious to hear you say and talk about is the difference for players today, college and pro, compared to when you played, with all the social media now and all of the instant connection with the fans and all of the instant feedback, good or bad. What do you make of the different eras from when you played in the 70s, when you heard only stuff on the radio and the newspaper and the TV, compared to now where everybody is an expert with a Twitter or an Instagram, and it makes it a lot more difficult for these guys to sort of insulate themselves from the outside noise, don't you think?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think you're absolutely right. Anything you do now is known right away, and it's heard by everybody. And so right now, you're trying to figure out if you should respond, if you should not respond.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to handle that situation? Yeah, it's a lot different. When I was playing ball, certainly you had the sports talk shows that you would go on and you'd listen to, and you can hear the comments from those type shows. But you didn't have anything that you had to respond to right away. I mean, you didn't have to answer everything that came out through those radio shows or through the television talk shows and whatnot. So, yeah, it's totally different. And I think it's rather tough. And one of the things I've always felt should be done is that, especially in colleges, these universities should be preparing these young people for the situation that they are in, because it's totally different, and it's got to be a tough situation for them all.
You know what's crazy? I was saying this to the guys before the show. Archie, I grew up in New York City, and in the I was born in '71, and as a kid in the late...
Man, 71, that was right before I went to Ohio State.
Exactly. Here's the funny thing, because even though I was a kid in New York City, I grew up a Bengals fan because my dad was a Bengals fan, right? And I work in Cleveland.
Oh,
but my dad was a Browns fan, and then when Paul Brown got kicked out, which was ridiculous, he starts the Bengals, of course, as you know, and he became a Bengals fan. So I grew up a Bengals fan. In New York City in the 70s and 80s, nobody paid attention to college football. We watched college basketball and then baseball and football. College football was off the radar for a kid in New York City. So I knew you as a running back on the Bengals, even more than Ohio State, which is insane, as a young kid.
Is that right?
And you, of course,
I'll tell you what.
And you, of course,
New
run
York
that
City.
Sorry, Archie, go ahead.
Well, New York City, you're right. I mean, it is a pro football town, no question about it. I mean, you got certainly the Jets, the Giants, and I mean the pro teams that are there. But you don't hear a lot about college football in
right.
New York, other than when it comes Heisman time, because the Heisman is based right there
right.
in New York City. Yeah. That's when you hear about a lot of college teams and right. things that are going on players. But yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I certainly can understand that. But you said that your parents were a Browns fan,
yeah,
or Bengals fan. They were Bengals fans and Browns fans when Paul Brown moved to Cincinnati.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I was also a Browns fan when I grew up, and
right.
When I got drafted by the Bengals, it certainly had to change. But I'm the kind of guy that roots for all of Ohio for right now. I mean, nice. I want the Ohio teams to do extremely well.
Very well.
Archie, this is perfect timing for you to come on. Some of the big news out there is, the Big Ten goes out, gets USC, gets UCLA. They're able to get into that market, able to get into the California market. Talk a little bit about, how that move kind of come to fruition, and then also speak to just the overall climate of college football and the conferences and realignment. And what's the future of the Big Ten as juxtaposed to some other bigger conferences like the SEC?
Well, I'll tell you what, the USC and UCLA move, I think, were great moves. And to me, it was an answer to the SEC moves with Oklahoma and Texas. And you knew that when the SEC did that, the Big Ten pretty much had to do something. And I think the West Coast move was a great move. I think that, personally, I think that you'll probably see more schools from the Pac-12 come into the Big Ten. And I think it's going to eventually get to maybe a 20-team conference. I don't know who those teams are going to be, but I think it's going to get to about a 20-team conference. And you may have two huge conferences, maybe like the AFC and the NFC when you boil it down in the end. I mean, I think it's going that way, and I think the Big Ten will be one of those conferences that survives and will have a lot of great teams in the conference. I mean, the Big Ten spans a wide area. When you look at the Midwest, all the way out to the West Coast, and the teams in between, to me, it's going to be a great conference. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I just wonder what it's going to do to the Rose Bowl when you always had the Big Ten and the Pac-10 playing in the Rose Bowl. So that's my only concern.
Archie, first of all, I want to say thank you for giving a great commencement speech at the 2015 graduation. You talked about overcoming adversity and how you fumbled the ball and you kept going and you ended up having a great career. And it was a beautiful speech. I'll salute you for it. But my question for you is, so back when I was at OSU, okay, and we lost to Michigan State in 2015, and Connor Cook goes on and they win the Big Ten championship. It was a lot of wrath about how he took the trophy away from you. I need to know how you felt, because I was ready to fight for you. I was ready to go to Indianapolis and fight this man for you, for disrespecting you. How did you feel about that?
Well, Tyvis, in all honesty, I didn't know that he had acted that way until I saw it on videotape. I had no idea that was the way that it looked. But in full disclosure, I got a call from him and an apology. He told me that that wasn't the way that he meant that at all, and also got a call from the head coach to tell me that as well. So evidently it came over TV worse than it really was, because again, I didn't even know at the time that that was the way that it came across, and I kept getting calls about it. I didn't know what people were talking about until I saw it on the tape.
It came across on TV.
That's a great question.
It was bad.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
it was bad.
No, I agree. It did. It did. But again, he called me and he apologized, and the coach called me, the whole works, and so no big deal. No big deal. They won that championship, and I just wanted to congratulate them for it.
Archie is one of the classiest guys that you'll ever find, and
he's the all-time leading rusher at Ohio State. You think about all the great running backs that Ohio State has had, and Archie Griffin, to this day, all these years later, is still the all-time leading rusher with almost 5,600 yards. That is a lot of running. Archie, what does it mean to you to still, after all these years, with all the great backs that have come through Ohio State, to still be number one on that list?
Well, I am certainly honored, no question. When you have the rushing record for Ohio State, you got to be very, very proud of that. But, when I think about that, I've got to think about the teams that I played on. I've always said that I was a very fortunate person. I played for the Ohio State University. I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. I played under Coach Woody Hayes, and for a running back, Coach Woody Hayes was the kind of a running back coach, because we didn't pass the ball very, very much at that time. When you pass the ball, Woody Hayes said 3 things can happen, and 2 of them were bad. So we didn't throw the ball very much at Ohio State. So the running backs were going to carry the rock. And I was fortunate enough to be the running back at the time that carried the rock. I played with some great guys at Ohio State, great linemen, guys like John Hicks right there from Cleveland, Ohio. He did a great job blocking for me. Chris Ward, Kurt Schumacher. All those guys were all Americans that blocked for me. So, I can't take all the credit. I played on some great teams that made me look good enough to win the awards that I won, and also have that rushing record. But now you got to also consider the fact that when guys are good, they'll leave in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when I played, you had to play 4 years in college. And that's a result of what happened. And my very first year at Ohio State was the very first year the freshman became eligible to play. And so I got to get 4 years in there.
And he did play, too. Archie, I've asked you this a number of times, and you're always so diplomatic and always so pleasant that you've never given me a direct answer. So I'm going to ask you again. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to pin you down. I so badly want to know what you think. There have been so many great running backs that have come through Ohio State. Eddie George comes to mind, Zeke Elliott. There have been so many. I would even hate to make a list because I'd leave 5 guys off of it. Aside from you, who is the best running back ever to play football at Ohio State?
Oh man, you did it again. I mean, that's a tough question. I'm not going to give you an answer because I tell you there are so many great ones, and there's different time frames when these great ones played. I mean, you mentioned a few, Eddie George. And I think about Keith Byers and how great a running back he was, and I saw a young man yesterday, Monday, who I thought was a fabulous running back at Ohio State. I don't know if you remember Carlos Snow.
Could run like the wind.
He could run like the wind, and I used to say back then, probably young guys probably don't know what this is, but I used to say the man was so quick he could make you miss in a phone booth, and he was just that quick. I mean, I loved watching him run, but I saw him the other day, and I thought to myself, he was one of the best backs that ever played at Ohio State. He got hurt his senior year and had some problems with the hip, but he was one of the best. But don't tie me down to the best. I mean, I think we've got one playing right now at Ohio State that could be considered in that group when it's all said and done.
He's tremendous.
Certainly got a few years left ahead of him. But Travion, I got to tell you, he's the real deal. And I'm looking forward to watching him play this year and hopefully at least another year after this.
And I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a big year for the Ravens this year after coming back from that injury last year. Hey, Archie, I'm curious, when you won your 2 Heisman trophies, it hadn't really been that long. Like, I feel like we talk about, Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in baseball. It's not talked as much about in football, certainly in college football. Ernie Davis was the first black player to ever win a Heisman Trophy. It was only roughly a decade before you did. I believe you were only the 5th black player to win a Heisman Trophy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. I know O.J. won, but was that when you were at Ohio State? Was that something that you thought about at all? Because obviously years of racism and all that awfulness affected the voting for a long time. Was it still obviously you won, but do you think it was still a factor, especially from some of the voters down south?
I really didn't think about it at the time, to be honest with you. I mean, I after winning it the very first time, then I thought about, could I win it again?
Yeah.
But I really didn't think about that. I mean, my interest when I was at Ohio State was getting a college education because that was important to me as well as my family. I mean, football was a great game. I loved it. I love sports. But to be honest with you, I would have played any sport that would have gotten me the opportunity to get a college education, because that was the goal that we had as a family, was for all of us to get a college education. And football just happened to be the sport that I was best in that allowed me to do that. But I also wrestled and ran track, and if those sports would have given me the better opportunity, I probably would have done that. But once I got in playing football, then I was going to try to be the best that I could possibly be. I mean, it's always been important to me to perform to the best of my ability. So I was going to try to be the very best that I could possibly be. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to be on some great teams with some great coaches that gave me an opportunity to play and make some great things happen. And winning that Heisman Trophy for the first time was certainly an honor that was beyond belief for me. I mean, because winning a Heisman is something that you dream about, but you really don't think is going to happen for you. But fortunately for me, it did happen, and I feel really blessed to have had that opportunity to accept that trophy and accept that trophy on behalf of my teammates and the coaches that I had the opportunity to play with. But I really didn't think about the race thing back then. I knew Ernie Davis had won it, and he was certainly a role model for me. And I just wish he could have played his whole career out without having passing away early. I mean, that would have been nice to see him play with the Cleveland Browns, with Jim Brown as well.
Amazing.
I mean, I think that would have been a fabulous backfield, and I know that he was looking forward to that as well.
You know, Archie, nowadays they got NIL. You know, they got the NIL money. If you was out right now, what would your NIL checks look like?
They'd have a lot of zeros on it.
I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to think about it because it didn't happen. And I'll be honest with you, I really admire these young men who have the opportunity now, because I've always felt, and I've been a proponent for the fact that these young men should be receiving some dollars for what they're doing. I mean, anytime when you pay coaches millions and millions of dollars, you know that these young people who are performing out on the field should be receiving something. And I've always been a proponent of that because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And obviously, everybody else has come to agree that something should be done. They just need to get their arms around it and figure out how to handle this, because I don't think they have it under control right now.
Archie, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to ever meet Woody Hayes, play for Woody Hayes. What's your best story about him? What you got for us? Tell me about him.
I tell you, Titus, I love playing for Coach Hayes. Coach Hayes was, without a doubt, a tough football coach. But what I loved about him was that he was fair. I mean, this was a man who, when you're in practice, he's going to be tough on you. He's going to tell you when you've done wrong, and he's going to get on your case. But when you're out of practice, he's going to be right there for you, willing to help you in anything that you want to do. And I always loved that about him. You know, I can remember situations where on the field, you know, he would cuss a guy out and really rip him a new tailhole. But all of a sudden, after the practice is over, the guy's walking down the hallway out the facility. Now, we didn't have facilities like you guys had over there, Titus.
Well, we got it because of y'all.
Yeah, that's right.
It's because of y'all.
But when you walk past his little office that he had, he would come out that office and he would grab you, bring you in that little bitty office he had, and he would tell you why he did what he did. And then the next day you go out on the practice field and you do something that was halfway decent, he'd stop practice and tell the rest of the team how great you just did this drill.
Wow.
I mean, he was just that type of person. I mean, he could bring you down, but he also knew how to bring you back up. And I always respected that about Coach Hayes. He was a man who cared a great deal about people. You know, you hear people talking about pay forward all the time now. Well, they got that from Woody. And Woody got that from Ralph Waldo Emerson's his book on compensation. And because Woody used to always tell us, you can never pay back the good that someone may have done for you, but you can always pay forward, and you can pay forward by helping others. And he always encouraged us to get out into the community to help others. I remember Thursday nights after practice, after we'd have a light practice, he had El Camino. You probably too young to remember what El Camino was.
I know what that is.
but we used to get in and he had AstroTurf in the back of that El Camino. And we used to get in the back of that El Camino. He'd drive us down High Street to Livingston Avenue. We'd make a left, go down to Children's Hospital and visit with the young kids at Children's Hospital. Now, Thursday nights, those kids look forward to Ohio State players coming to visit with them. And Coach Hayes wanted to make sure that we did that. And I always respected that about Coach Hayes. He always wanted to do things to help others.
Arch, our producer McNuggets has a question for you. He wants to throw your way. Mikey, go ahead.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Archie, I'm just curious. I've been lucky enough to hold the Heisman when I was working down in Texas. You have two. Where do you store them? Are they both on display in the house? One more warranty than the other?
I've got one here at home, and the other is in the Ohio Union because the ballroom in the Ohio Union is named in my honor, and I've got a lot of stuff that I won displayed right there in the Ohio Union where that ballroom is in the display cases. But I've got one right here at home as well. But the university also has copies that they keep in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, because when you win a trophy, they give the individual one and they give the school one. And the ones that they gave the school are in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So I tell people that those are the real ones, as well as mine are the real ones. So, I mean, there's 4 of them for me.
Arch, you're the only guy on the planet that has the luxury of saying, I'll keep one at the house, and I'll donate one to the room named after me.
Yeah.
How do you watch when an underclassman wins the Heisman Trophy? And we've seen that a number of times. They just haven't been able to pull it off. If they come back for another year, they haven't been able to pull it off winning it again. The Miami Dolphins of 1972, they were the before the Patriots did it. They were the last team to go undefeated for a regular season. They're the only team to go undefeated and win a Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era. And I always laugh whenever the last undefeated team loses their first game. They all get together and they do a toast. How do you watch when Tim Tebow comes back and he's the defending Heisman Trophy winner? Are you rooting against him? Is that a record that you just want to hold on forever?
That's a great question.
How do you view that?
No, I really don't. I root against those guys who won it as an underclassman and come back. I really don't. Matter of fact, I'm hoping that they have a great season, and I wish the best for them. The way I look at it is very simple. Whoever wins it a second time, like I did, I'll always be the first. So I don't have a problem with somebody winning twice. Matter of fact, I really believe somebody out there is going to do it and probably do it pretty soon because it's almost been 50 years, and that's a long time. But I've always looked at it. Hey, no need to hate, no need to get upset. Hey, you were the first. Be proud of that, and I'm very proud of that.
I want to live my life like Archie. I told you guys, one of the classiest people I've ever met.
That's a great attitude to have.
100% class.
Other people, you wouldn't buy it, but in this case,
he's authentic.
Yeah.
Well, now, that doesn't say that my wife is probably hoping that they don't win it, or people in my family are probably hoping they win. Or friends tell me all the time, man, I was hoping they didn't win it, but no, I don't let that bother me, man. No. That's something you don't have any control of, and so you don't worry about it. And that's really how I approach winning the Heisman that second year, because a lot of people really kept asking me about if I thought I could win it that second year. Well, deep down inside, I wanted to win it, but I had no control over that because I wasn't doing the voting. So I pretty much left it up to the Lord up above to make things happen, and if it was going to happen, it was. If it wasn't, it wasn't. But you just got to be going day by day, living your life the way that you live. You can't worry about things that you have no control of.
Archie, you opened my eyes, man. That was what you just said was profound. So that means that it don't matter if Ohio State wins another ring or not, which they will. I'm not going to say they not. They definitely will.
Got to play some defense.
I will always be considered the first CFP national champion and defensive MVP. Thank you. I didn't look at it that way. You just,
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. Hey,
by the way, Archie, we've shown a number of pictures of you here from your playing days. Can we bring up one of those pictures again, guys, of Archie and his playing days at Ohio State?
Give us 1 sec. Yep.
Yeah, once you have it, because every time we talk to a player who played a long time ago, it always refreshes my memory of like the pads. I mean, look at those shoulder pads. They look like they weigh 40 pounds. Nowadays you can't, like, you barely see the guy's shoulder pads. But when you played, man, I mean, that had to add what? Like, it seems like 40 pounds. Obviously it wasn't that much, but would you have liked to play with the shoulder pads they have now, or did you appreciate having all that extra protection?
I would like to have played with the shoulder pads they have now if they gave me the protection of the pads that I wore. Because when you play that running back position, especially in Ohio State, you take a lot of hits.
Yeah.
And they protected me pretty well. We had an equipment manager. He's legendary.
He is legendary.
And Titus, you may have heard his name around the locker room sometime by some of the older guys. A guy by the name of John Bozick. And John Bozick always tried to find stuff that would help me because he would fix my thigh pads. He would make big thigh pads for me that would wrap around my thighs, the whole works. And I always appreciated that because I felt, hey, they're looking after me because they saw that I was taking a lot of hits on the thigh, getting a lot of thigh bruises and missing some practices because of those thigh bruises that I was getting at times. And he would make extra big thigh pads that I put in there. People would think my legs were huge, but they really weren't. John Bozick really put those thigh pads in there and made it look that way. But those thigh pads really protected me. I'll never forget that, and I always remember that about John Bozick, God rest his soul.
Nice.
John was a legendary, bigger-than-life movie character. I after the first time I met him, I thought the guy was putting it on. But that every time I would talk to him, that's how he was. Bigger-than-life character, one of the most fun people you'll ever know. McNuggets has a question for you?
No, I got a little bit of a surprise. We're talking about big shoulder pads, and we don't have just one person on the call now who wore big shoulder pads. We got two. Steve, punch him up.
Oh, my God.
Look who's waiting in the room.
Hey,
Man.
I tell you what. If I had to hang out with an Ohio State guy, and y'all know Robert Smith is my boy, it's got to be Archie.
I feel some
Every
type of way,
conversation
Leroy.
I've had, I've enjoyed. Every minute that I've spent over in Sarasota has been a joy. And I always tell Archie, you are the nicest two-time Heisman Trophy winner I have ever met.
Oh,
Hey,
man,
it's
good
funny
to see
because
you, man.
it is. The thing that everybody says about Archie, I don't care who you're talking to, sincerity,
Yeah.
right?
Class.
He's gonna say what he mean and mean what he say. He ain't gonna be hateful, harmful, but he gonna tell you how it is. And so it's always a joy. We have some fun conversations. You know, we always go back and forth. So yeah, it's good to see you, Arch.
Hey, good to see you too. Just so you know, I just played golf with KB on Sunday. We had a good time. And Doc.
Oh, okay. They were up in Ohio.
Yeah, in Columbus. Yeah. In Columbus. We played the golf club.
Okay, all right.
Guys, I got to tell you, it does my heart well to see a Buckeye and a Wolverine smiling.
that.
in the
Look
split
at
screen
that.
together.
I can't believe it.
like-
I really can't
Hey,
believe it.
You don't see that every day.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If you come in contact with Archie, you gonna smile,
Yes, you are.
right? It's refreshing. So it don't matter what school you went to, right?
That's right.
You gonna appreciate, especially
right.
if you played the position. You gonna appreciate what Archie has to say, and because he's a genuine dude, it's always a pleasure. But you know, we always have, because it's, you know, KB's my guy too. And so whenever we get together, we go back and forth. And Archie just sit back and laugh at us going at each other's throat. But
And believe me, they go at it. They go at it all the time.
Well,
all the time.
Keep firing.
I can't imagine Keith Byers and Leroy, being as congenial and as pleasant to one another as Archie and Leroy are.
But y'all don't understand. Let me tell you a story. So one time KB used to live down in South Florida. And we used to golf probably 3 or 4 times a week. Me, KB, and Doc. Right? And about once a week, we'd be in the parking lot yelling at the top of our lungs about something happened on the golf course. And somebody would come over and say, y'all all right? We say, man, get away from here. Get away from here. This ain't none of your business. And we'd get done after yelling for about 45 minutes about what happened on the golf course. And we'd leave and say, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Right? That's how. I remember one time we were playing golf and we played golf with, it was me, Doc, KB, and another dude. And we got into it and I said, you know what, KB? I'm done. I'm tired of this. Y'all don't know the rules of golf. I'm tired of coming to golf, fighting over the rules, blah, 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 blah. I'm cussing. I'm raising up a storm. and KB took his hand and put it on my shoulder. And if y'all know KB, he is not a small dude. And I'm telling you, his fingers hit my nipple, and his thumb was on my back. His thumb was on my back. And he say, "You ain't leaving here mad." And I said, "Okay." I got my car and I went home because I was like, "Wow, massive
Meat hooks.
meat hook." And look, he's the only guy I know. We played at concession one time, and he swung a driver, and it slipped out his hand, and he threw it up in the tree.
Oh, yes.
Famous move.
Yes, I ain't the only one. Thank you, Keith, you man.
But yeah, that's my guy right there. We I tell you what, that's when we go over the concession, right? That's Keith used to take me over there. We would just go at it for a whole weekend. But it's nothing but love I have for these guys. And it's unfortunate that y'all went to Ohio State, but you know, it is what it is. You know, sometimes friends, like I'm not mad or embarrassed or anything that I have friends that went to Ohio State. Hell, when I played in Minnesota, they was all from Ohio State. You, on the other hand, you ain't in the friend zone yet. So watch yourself.
Whoa.
Watch yourself.
What you talking about? What I do?
Watch yourself.
What did I do? You like this? You like this?
You can't. Hey, too
I'm
soon.
just saying.
Too soon.
4-0. 4-0. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
You know, you know what? It was something I didn't even see what I grabbed. I just grabbed the shirt and I just put it on.
This whole thing?
Yeah, you know, this thing here. It just happened to be
Hey,
fitting
Archie.
that you're on today.
Archie, I want to get your reaction to something. Leroy's telling all these stories. First of all, he's hanging out with a bunch of Buckeyes right now. He's telling all these golf stories about playing golf with all these Buckeyes. It seems like he is a pretty good judge of character after all.
That's what I would say. I would say the exact same thing. But Leroy knows who he needs to hang with to have a great time.
Yeah.
And there's no question. There's no question that we have a great time.
Yeah, I'm never gonna turn away on a great time. We do have a great time. I mean, we go to eat dinner, right? And I have never seen a human being eat from the second we sit down to the second we get up and leave and then take something to go like KB. This is the honest truth. Me and KB went to the restaurant to eat one time, and he stopped and got a little cheeseburger all the way.
A little appetizer.
I got to respect that.
Y'all go chill, low key, man.
Hey, y'all better get KB on.
I'm telling you,
He's on Friday. He's on Friday.
Oh,
Hey, I tell you what, you ask him about it, he goes, come on, man.
We will ask him about that, definitely.
We'll play the clip here. We'll play this exact clip for him.
Yep.
You got a cheeseburger.
Arch, listen.
Before we let Archie go, I got to
Go
ask
ahead,
you one last thing. Archie, obviously Michigan beat Ohio State for the first time in a long time this past year. What do you expect to happen this season?
What do I expect to happen this season?
Yeah.
I think Harbaugh made some comments that I think is going to have a huge impact on the Buckeyes when they come to Columbus this season. I really do. I think Jim should have watched his words because he certainly gave a lot of food so these guys could get fired up to play this year. You never know what's going to happen on the field when that game is played, but I can tell you, I know that both teams are going to be ready to play. And from our standpoint, it's a great thing that we got them in Columbus this year.
Yeah, here.
Thanks, Archie.
The great Archie Griffin, the only two-time Heisman Trophy winner. It's a one-man club. He said he wouldn't mind having another member of the club, but his family likes it. It's a one-man club. Archie, great to see you. Come back and see us again during football season. And take care of yourself, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.
Everyone, great to see you, man. I'll see you when I get back to Florida.
All right,
Take care. God bless you.
all righty.
The great Archie Griffin. And I got to tell you,
Yeah.
it really was. I joked, but it was fun to to see a Buckeye great and a Wolverine great sit there on our show with all smiles,
Well,
telling stories.
the
Because
thing-
at the end of the day, we're all part of the same race.